Good morning. I'm Barbara Lindquist. My husband and Dave and I have been members of Messiah for 51 years. I am the mother of 3 boys, and we have 13 grandchildren, 10 girls and 3 boys. We're also very proud great-grandparents of a little boy and a girl coming in June. When Pastor Jim asked me to say a few words today, I immediately began thinking of my long faith journey. I am grateful to my mother for helping me start this journey when I was about 5 years old. We lived in a 2-flat in Chicago. It was during the war. And at that time, and conveniently, there was an Episcopalian church right across the street. She immediately took me over there and enrolled me in Sunday school. I don't know if there was really enrollment at that time, but I remember her taking me and just saying, I would like my daughter in Sunday school, and she would like to be here. In the summer, I would go across the street, actually a busier street, Armitage and Kimball, and attend a tent. It was very exciting, and that's where I learned fishers of men. And lovingly, I call it Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show right now, because that's exactly what it was like. It was a lot of fun. Then we moved to another neighborhood in Chicago. My mother found another Sunday school for me to attend, and it was the Salvation Army Sunday School. It was led by Captain Johnson and his wife, and a nice man and wife named Harold and Ruth. My dad worked a lot, so when I couldn't go to the Salvation Army Sunday School, they would always pick me up. And of course, that's where I learned one of my very, very favorite children's songs, Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam to Shine for Him Each Day. From there, my family, now including my brother, who was 4 years younger than I am, moved to our newly built home in Skokie. My mother heard of neighbors who had a Sunday school in their basement, so that's where I attended. Then that basement became too small because of the growing number of children that would attend the Sunday school. And my parents said, come on over. Our basement is plenty big. So that's where we had Sunday school every Sunday. Then it came to be the time for confirmation for me. The pastor would come every Saturday and teach confirmation to 2 of my girlfriends and myself. Then, when confirmation came, we went to St. Paul's in Skokie, and we were confirmed with the rest of the class there. And of course, that's where Dave and I were married. That brings us to 1969. Dave and I, 2 of our boys and a third on the way, moved to Hawthorne Woods. One day, there was a knock on the door. It was the welcome wagon lady. She said, do you have any questions? I said, well, we are thinking of attending a Lutheran church in America church. Is there one nearby? And she said, well, yes, there is. I go to it. So she said she would tell the pastor. A couple of days later, there was a knock on the door. It was Pastor Len Peterson, and the rest is history. We've been members all that time. I am grateful to my mom, and I thank her for always providing a Sunday school and a church for me. Thank you for your example. Because of teaching me, my boys love Sunday school too. Happy Mother's Day.
Good morning. My name is Adna Gibson. I am married to Mr. John Gibson, and we have 2 children. We have been members of Messiah for 6 years now, and as always, we feel welcome and we are part of a big, big family. When Pastor Jim asked if I could participate today and share some of my faith journey with you, and I was trying to think of what could I share with you today. I just happened to come across an analogy on the internet this week in Spanish, of course, so I'm going to try to share it with you and translate it as best as I can. So I was reading in this analogy how when God wanted to create fish, he actually turned to the sea and ordered it to create fish. When he wanted to create trees and plants in the forest, he turned to the earth and said, create trees and plants and forests and flowers. When he decided he wanted to create you and me, he actually turned to himself. And he wanted to create us to his image. And we are created in his image, men and women. Now, what happens when you actually grab a fish and you take it out of the water? You remove it from its world in the presence of water, and it dies. What happens when you take a plant off the earth? Same thing. It dies. So what happens when we actually take ourselves away from God's presence? Well, many things happen. And on a daily basis, my phone goes off and reminds me that there is a child missing, that someone got shot, that somebody got stabbed, that someone else died. And it breaks my heart because, once again, we are living away from God's presence. Why am I bringing this today on Mother's Day? Well, in my faith journey, life hasn't been easy for me. 20-some years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, right when you think that you're powerful and young, right? And you can do just about anything in the world. And I had to undergo chemotherapy and treatment that many people in our church have had to face. I went through it, and the only way I was able to manage staying in God's presence was through prayer. And he got me through that time in my life. When we finished, I remember that doctor coming very excited into the room with test results saying, Adna, we did it. You are healthy again. I have great news today, but I also have bad news for you. And I thought, what bad news can this man give to me today? And he said, you're healthy, but you're not going to be able to have children. And that did. I wasn't expecting that to be said to me. And I remember walking out of there, and once again, I had to walk out and think, okay, well, now I'm alive, and I cannot really have a family. And that was big for me, especially if you come from a Latin community. You have to have family. And I remember praying, and I used to pray. And I used to say to God, I know I'm asking for craziness here, right? And I'm asking you, I really would like to have at least one kid. And today, on Mother's Day, I can sit here and say, I have two. Not one, but two. And once again, I can tell you that I've been able to see firsthand God's grace and God's love firsthand. Why am I talking about Mother's Day and having my kids and looking at what God has created in this world? Well, we're all created in his image. We're all asked to be in his presence. We're all asked to love each other. As a mother, the way I try to stay in his presence is through prayer, just like I've done since very young. And I do it so that I can ensure my kids and my family are in his presence, so that I can ensure people around us are in his presence. And as a mom today, I'm asking all the moms who are listening, continue to pray. Continue to stay in his presence for you, for your children, for your family. God bless you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jane, and I have been a member at Messiah since I was a child, back in the Pastor Chuck days. Over the years, my attendance at church has fluctuated. Becoming a mom 13 years ago reignited my desire to return to my church home more regularly. When I think about my faith journey, I think about my own mom. She became a widow at the age of 28 with 2 young daughters to raise. Her strength has always inspired me, and I learned at a very young age that her strength came from God. She was so strong as she was raising us girls that I rarely saw her cry. But sitting in the church pews on Sunday mornings, I remember seeing her tears. The tears I remember seeing on her face during church never appeared to be sad tears. I remember looking at her during church services and seeing what looked like powerful tears. After I became a mom myself, I learned that those tears were her way of releasing all that came from the wisdom of God's love and courage. Those Sunday mornings were her reminders of the love and courage that was keeping her strong and close to God's promise during a time of great sadness. I now know that my mom was able to grieve and find peace through those promises that we hear about every Sunday. Specifically today, in John 15, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. When I became a mom myself, I realized how important finding this joy was, and how important it was for me to be showing my own daughter what it looks like to be walking close to God and have this joy during all seasons of her life. I made a promise to her when she was born that I would teach her all the ways to feel God's word in her life every day, just the same way my mom did for me. By doing this, my hope has always been that she would not only be able to feel God's love, but share this love with the people who have been inspired by her life as well. As stated in John 5, "For whatever is born of God conquers the world, and this is the victory that conquers the world, our faith." The beautiful cycle of faith is in the tears of moms, the tears of parents, grandparents, friends, and neighbors. Someday when my daughter wonders how I did it, how I stayed strong in a lifetime that is filled with so many things, including pain, hardship, grief, and unknowns, I pray she knows that it was God's word and promise that got me through. And if I've done my job as her mom, she will cling to her faith when she is finding joy through the tears.